Tonight, fighting the jihadists. That is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. It is now becoming clear that the Homeland Security Department let all Americans down by not flagging the slain terrorist Tamerlan Tsarnaev. When Russian intelligence alerts American Homeland Security people about an individual, you mark that individual forever. The Russians are busy. They don't have time for small ball. The fact that this guy was selected for scrutiny by Russian intelligence is huge. And then he travels from the USA to Russia, returning 6 months later, and U.S. intelligence doesn't watch him? What a massive screw-up. Massive. In addition, the guy was posting jihad garbage on the internet. And still, he was not being watched. We simply can't have it. That's a mistake that cost 4 people their lives and more than 200 others their health. We cannot afford mistakes like that. Now, on the broader question, it's clear to any sane person that Muslim jihadists are a threat to the world. Yet President Obama will not say that.
When a tragedy like this happens, with public safety at risk and the stakes so high, it's important that we do this right. That's why we have investigations. That's why we relentlessly gather the facts. That's why we have courts. And that's why we take care not to rush to judgment. Not about the motivations of these individuals, certainly not about entire groups of people.
But of course, it's all about motivation, and it is about a specific group of people. President Obama is wrong, seriously wrong. It's clear the 2 Boston bombers were jihadists. They believed they have a right to kill children to serve their religion. Who else does that? What other theology in this world justifies murdering innocent people? The answer is only radical Islam allows terror murder. That's the truth. President Obama doesn't want to say the truth, and the reason is politics. As we reported last night, there are Muslim nations that help the USA. They provide vital intelligence. Their secret police actually kill jihadists. Mr. Obama rightly doesn't want to alienate those nations. Also, most Muslims on this earth are good people, but they are not helping to neutralize the jihad. They are not standing up against it in any numbers. And that includes American Muslims. They largely remain silent. This is a situation we all face in America. The jihad is real. Radical Muslims are killing innocent people and threatening the world. A country like Iran would wipe out every Jew on earth if it could. And then they'd wipe us out if it could. Iran is a Muslim theocracy. Can't solve any problem unless you understand it. I believe President Obama does understand the jihad is a threat to the world, but I also believe he's never going to define it that way. He's not going to say what the real situation is. Again, I believe that's a terrible mistake. And that's a memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction joining us from Washington, Fox News analyst Charles Krauthammer. And you say?
I say I don't know what he's thinking, but I sure know what he's saying and doing. The lengths to which he will go to avoid telling us the truth about the enemy is becoming comical. It's certainly embarrassing. For example, he will never forget about the word jihadist. He'll never use that. But he refuses to use the word Islamist, which is used throughout the Muslim world. It's used by journalists, by authors, on the street, in the parliament, everywhere. In Egypt, it's used in Lebanon, it's used everywhere by Muslims. And yet Obama won't touch it because he refuses to use any words that might imply a connection between radical Islam and terrorism, which, as anybody who's over the age of 9 knows, is the single greatest cause of terror in the world today. I'll give you one example which was completely overlooked by everyone. It was a rather trivial one. When he was in Israel, he gave a speech in Jerusalem. And in the middle of the speech, he talked about the rise of the Islamists. parties in Egypt and elsewhere, the Brotherhood in Egypt and Libya, etc. And what was the phrase he used? We have to be concerned about the rise of non-secular parties. What a weird word to use. The word is religious parties. The word is Islamist parties. Yet even in this trivial throwaway line in a speech in Jerusalem, he refuses to use the obvious word.
Now, does it matter? That's the question. So we've established the fact that President Obama, for whatever his reason, and he won't explain it, isn't going to define the worldwide terrorism problem accurately. He's not. Does it matter that he doesn't?
It matters because if you want to mobilize the population, if you want to give them the courage to persist and to carry on a fight, which should be a difficult fight, it could go on for a generation. You have to be clear with your own people about who the enemy is. Churchill did not speak about German extremists. He talked about the Nazi menace. He described it in detail. FDR didn't speak about extremists in Tokyo. He talked about the Japanese imperialism and its threat to the whole region. You have to be able to be honest with the people if you're going to get any support. Otherwise, you get an event here, an event there, and you say we can't jump to any conclusions. Within 3 days, everybody understands that these brothers were jihadists.
Within 3 minutes, everybody understood. As soon as they saw they were from Chechnya, as soon as they saw who they were, everybody knew what it was.
Yeah.
All right, so, I mean, but you can't say, I think, fairly, that President Obama is soft on the jihad. He hasn't been soft on it. He uses the drones, which, of course, Tom Brokaw is all upset about, and we'll get to that with Colonel Hunt in a moment. He's not soft on it. He doesn't avoid killing them when he can. So, you know, this is it's a PR thing, I guess.
I think it's more than PR because, again, if you want to lead a nation in a fight that takes a long time, the drone attacks are happening off-screen, below the radar. It doesn't affect us in our lives. Yes, I commend him on that. Yes, it is happening. But he tries to keep all of this at bay as if it's not happening. It's all in secret. We don't hear about it. And every once in a while you get an attack in Boston and people say, what's going on? I thought, as Obama said, the tide of war is receding. I thought we don't even use the phrase the war on terror. I thought the guy who killed 13 Americans in the Fort Hood shooting, who jumped up on a table and yelled Allahu Akbar, which is the signature of the jihad, is still today called by this administration officially workplace violence.
I know.
As if the guy went postal.
It's absurd.
It's absurd, and I think it undermines the will and the strength of Americans.
Do you ever think we're going to know
also,
why? Do you ever think we're going to know why the president is doing this? Ever?
I'm not sure. I mean, we can all speculate. I don't think he'll even admit it. He'll say, I want to make sure that, he will say, I want to make sure that minorities...
He didn't use the word Muslim terrorism in this whole Boston thing.
He's afraid if he uses the word Muslim, it's going to stigmatize 1 billion people on Earth.
All right, so everybody else on Earth knows it's Muslim terrorism, but he won't admit it because he's afraid they're going to be stigmatized. They're already stigmatized. It's
Look,
just
you
crazy.
don't have to convince me.
I know, but it's so insane that I don't understand.
In the end, it's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. I don't know why it's happening. All right, Charles, thank you. Next on the